Hey, all you beautiful, beautiful, wonderful people out there! It's the Fantasy Fiends show. You're here. You know what it is. It's your boy Stevie Collier. It's me. I'm shirtless. I have a shirt on. I'm not shirtless. I'm here with Andy Peliquin. I don't know if you know him. He writes a book a week. We're not talking Goosebumps size. We're talking epics. So
it's a book a month, Stevie. Just a book a month.
You should get a fan club and you send 6 books a month, all fresh. Just Andy. And we are honored to have Christopher Russell. He's got a great book that I'm going to be reading from as the chick again. So I might as well. I should go get estrogen shots.
I hear that Stevie's always the chick.
I'm always the chick. Mm-hmm. And I'm a beautiful chick too. I'm flat. Well, kinda. They jiggle a little bit, but okay. Andy, please take it away from me, man. Jesus Christ. All right, Christopher, tell us a little bit about yourself, please.
Hey, everybody. I'm Christopher Russell. I am the author of Divinity's Twilight Rebirth. It is an epic fantasy with a very steampunk vibe. There's also going to be a little bit of military thriller and a little bit of mystery and espionage along with it as well. And it has just come out this Tuesday, September 22nd. You can find the ebook on all ebook retailers, and the physical copy, just go and check your local store, see if they have it. If they don't, contact me and I'll berate them until they do.
Oh, are you not self-published?
No, this is indie published.
Oh, okay. How did you get it in stores?
Going around and being my nice, charismatic self.
Man, that's the way I like to hear it. Yes, I should do that. That's a great idea. I knew you could do it with libraries, but I didn't know you could do it with bookstores.
All they have to be able to do is get your book through IPS, Ingram Publishing Services. If they can order it through that, they can carry your book.
I think awesome. You can also do it on consignment, where you just go to the bookstore and say, "Here, I want to leave you with 10 books," and they basically just add it into their inventory. They give it their own, barcode, and if they sell it, they write you a check, essentially.
Barnes & Noble does that?
No.
Okay.
They have to be able to buy the book. Independent, you can basically do your own negotiating, like Andy said.
Okay, man.
Most bookstores. I know I did I had my books in a couple of half-price books there in Texas. Up here in Canada, I know that Indigo and Chapters, they have it's basically a form that they give you to fill out, and it's a super easy process that most bookstores do have.
And next time I go into a bookstore, I'm just going to be there even longer.
Stevie,
Rebecca.
Are we talking? What are we talking about here? There's a lot of things that I said.
She says she's explained. I'm pretty sure she's explained to you how to get your book in bookstores.
Oh, okay. I'm not okay. Yes, that's right. She has. Anyway, I'm trying to keep this PG, Andy. Please, Andy. So, Christopher, how old are you, Christopher?
I actually turned 28 on September 14th. At this big birthday party. So we've actually had 2 birthdays this month, one for me, one for the book. And I actually have pictures of Divinity's Twilight, this exact book, blowing out its candles. So you can find those on social media.
Very cool.
Man, that's a great idea. Yeah, I thought you looked young, so we're the same age. I'm just a few months
I just don't
old.
have any peach fuzz.
Yeah. Can you grow a beard?
I can. It just takes a while.
Okay.
Like 2 months.
Next time we need that beard. Andy, you didn't tell him?
What did I not tell him?
About our beard.
Well, this is like a week, and you can barely even see it. So.
Okay. I gotcha. Well, today, guys, we have an amazing episode for you. No tangents. This is tangent-free. But we're going to first start off with, of course, something awesome that has happened to us within the distant present.
Recent past.
Recent past.
Stevie, I feel like you've got a story to tell us.
I am energized because I got pulled over because I ran a stop sign. I deserved it, but this is on a country road. No one stops for stop signs. Yes, it's against the law, but everyone does it. I've seen multiple cops roll these stop signs. It's seriously no one over here for miles. It's like,
did the cop roll the stop sign as he pulled away from you?
No. You know what? He probably went 65 on this country road, which is dangerous, just to catch up with me because he saw the yellow Mustang. And as they usually do,
there you go.
Yeah, they don't like the yellow Mustang, but But I talked my way out of it. I almost got towed because my car has no inspection and I didn't have proof of insurance. I did have proof of insurance, but it was for a different car. I printed out the wrong one. Not surprised. So I quickly texted my parents, hey, send me a picture of my insurance ASAP, about to get towed. And while I just asked him questions about himself, I was like, dude, I'm writing a book about with a police officer. It's a lie, but I was curious. And I was like, do you touch the trunk of the car to put your fingerprint? He goes, yeah, we actually do. And he just started gabbing on about himself. And I was genuinely interested in what he had to say. So I'm not being a dick.
Car for what?
Huh? They touch the car to put their fingerprint on it, and he also says they check the trunk to make sure it's closed. I didn't know that.
Why did they put their fingerprint on it?
In case I shoot him and run away.
Oh,
that way, then when they catch the car later or something like that, they can see that he had actually been there.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I picked his brain. I was like, what are the coolest things I could put in my book? I got him on 15 minutes just talking about himself, which I was genuinely interested. I'm not being a dick. I truly was interested. And another thing he said is they will pull someone over for a broken taillight, but won't write them a ticket for it. So they won't fix the broken taillight. And it's usually for like more, I hate to say it, like low class cars, you know, something that looks like a drug car. It's kind of interesting, the tactics that they will go through. And I'm surprised he told me that, honestly. But shout out to you. I think your name was Curtis. Thank you for not towing my car. And he was very nice. And I offered him a Monster Energy drink, and he looked at me like I was just the most.
Did you get a ticket though?
No ticket. No warning. Nothing. He just.
Did you give him a book?
No, I said I would. He's like, yeah, if you mentioned me in the book, and I'll have to look you up. I was like, yeah, man, I want to use your name. That was a lie because I don't even remember it. But that's the story. Stevie almost got freaking towed, and I text Lisa, and she just wrote back, "Not surprised." It's just a normal day.
Here's what you need to do, Stevie. You need to sell the Mustang and get like a super low key like minivan, and you will never get pulled over again.
Maybe a Kia. There's 1,000 Kias on the road.
I am a snowflake. I'm an ENFP, and we have to be different or have the illusion that we're different, or else we go crazy. So no, Andy, I will keep my Mustang, and I will keep getting towed. Tow up. All right. So that is my good news for the day. I am, you know what? I'm getting, okay. One last thing. I'm going to shut up for good. I'm getting the cover done for Ninja and Fox. I've got a person who works for Shonen Jump, the anime place. Yeah. Anime book thing. She's got her own show that she's writing, but during COVID, she's a freelancer. So she's doing the cover for like $350. I'm going full anime with it just because that's what I like. And this is my baby. I don't even care if it makes money. So
interesting.
Yeah. And it is so cool. Oh my God. It's so cool.
Well, what you can do is you can rebrand it as a light novel and put it over in the graphic novels and manga section.
The light graphic novels, right? Where it just has a few pictures within it. That's what she said. So I'll have to look into that. It's just going to be pricey.
Those are really popular right now.
Are they? Andy?
They're called light novels?
Light novels. So it would be what we in America would call probably a novella. I'd say 60 to 70,000 words, where it's not that 100,000 that you think of for an average fantasy novel. And what they do is more episodic. So it is the indie publishing model, but just in Japan. That's
okay. Yeah, and it is the manga. I see a lot of manga, but I'll look more into this. But that is my good news. I feel like I should wait to show you the finished thing. So I'll wait.
I'm pretty sure you shouldn't wait, Stevie. I feel like we all want to see it.
Do you want to see it? Do you want
to
see it?
I do.
Okay.
You know, you told us that you had it, and now we have to see it. It's like what is it? Chekhov's gun.
The what?
Chekhov's gun.
What are you talking about?
If a gun shows up in Act 1, it has to be fired by Act 3.
The law of foreshadowing.
Yeah. Anything that you bring into a story has to come into play, essentially. So you've brought it in, and now we have to see it, Stevie.
Okay. Chekhov's gun. I'll have to not look that up.
My version of that rule is, it's what I call the fortress rule, that if you show a fortress in fantasy, it is either going to be besieged, it's going to fall, it's going to come crumbling to the ground. Something terrible is going to happen to this fortress if it is shown.
That actually makes better sense than Chekhov's gun, Andy. Come on.
Except Chekhov.
Except for his is a real one.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I've got it up. So, shit, where is it? Okay.
We don't want to know what you've got up, Stevie. Just show us the picture of the book cover.
If you're talking about what you're thinking about, like, I have to take medicine for that, Andy. And I took too much.
You have a
the
question?
desk is rising. Okay.
A question from the audience. What about chapter 3 of Ninja and Fox?
So I was halfway through chapter 3, and since this is like my child and I'm not doing it for money, I scrapped it because I didn't like it. I thought the personality was too boring. Have you ever played Uncharted, Rashawn? If you've played on Uncharted, think of Nathan Drake, who's the main character. That's who I want this shinobi to be. And don't think that I use the word ninja in the book. I'm actually sticking to Japanese culture, calling it shinobi, and actually making jokes about Americans who call it ninja. And actually using Japanese terms in there. So
I'm a little bit of a purist. I think I told Andy this, that I'm working on an Asian fantasy standalone. With a hard magic system based on thermodynamics. So that's bringing my engineering background in. And I go the midpoint step of using the Japanese terms as well, where you have the daisho, the twin swords, katana and wakizashi. You have the daito, which is the long sword, the katana. And then you have the daimyo for the clan leaders and various other things.
Yeah, and you kind of, through context, you tell people what this is. Like a Shinto is a sliding door. I'm like, he slid the Shinto door, and then I'll never use the word door again.
I use the Zaisu seat, which doesn't have a bottom. And I say that because normally you just call it a Zaisu, so I call it a Zaisu seat the first time it's introduced.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't even know what that is. I'll have to look that up. Andy, I shared the screen.
Yep. I'm just waiting for us to, everybody in the audience, brace yourselves
yes.
for this. Boom.
That
is awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, she is freaking. She's like, yeah, I bet you have a lot of stuff that you're going to want to fix. I'm like, no. Like, seriously.
Does it bother anybody else that the sword is resting blade side down?
Ooh.
Yes. Yeah, I'm going to.
No. Metal plate. Simple solution.
A metal
No. You don't do that because it's like you rest the more solid part, right? It's just you reduce wear and tear on the blade, which is sharp. So the less you come in contact with the blade, the better. It's sort of like you never put your gun on the ground barrel first. So anytime you're doing something like that, it's like when you wear or when you show a sword. Let me see. With this sword like this, you would rest that part up there on your shoulder so that you don't dull the blade on your armor. It's just, weapon care 101.
If we were talking about it, so you did get the drawing across the body, so that's good. I don't know how much Andy wants to pick this apart.
The what?
No. So honestly,
he draws across his body with a katana.
And he's left-handed, Stevie.
He shouldn't be, but
in this case he is left-handed.
Yeah, because he's got both of the weapons on his right hip.
Yeah, so that was her idea. She says this is going to be the best visual for a reader. That's what she would use on a manga cover. You say it would or it wouldn't?
Yeah, no, you definitely would do this because you have those lines.
Yeah.
The horizontal. Well, I guess it's going to be more like this. The horizontal lines where the reader's eyes start up here and travel down here. So you do want that.
Because I told her to put the sword in the right hand, and she goes, "No, you need to do it this way because it's more." And I was like, "Damn, how many covers have you freaking done? If you know that." But the fox.
So is it a familiar? The fox spirit?
Andy has taken bigger dumps on things.
Honestly,
he's actually being nice.
The fact that the only thing that I have to say about it is that the sword is the wrong side up.
That's a compliment.
Like that's, I'm super particular. Oh man, I've been having some covers done by an artist, and the guy, he does an amazing job, but I have to I give him this big long list of, okay, here is minor detail that bothers me so badly, and then the other minor detail that bothers me, and it's a long list.
Real quick, Christopher, before we move on, to answer your question, that is a spirit fox. I totally forgot about Naruto. It's nothing like Naruto.
Oh, I wasn't going to ask that.
Okay. But yeah, and it's a real piece of shit too. Like, it is a dick. In fact, it wants to kill him because if you know the story about the kitsune, Tama Momai. I forgot the thing's name. The one that's in Naruto. 2 samurai killed that thing. Well, he's a descendant of that, and now the fox is within him, keeping him alive. And he's like, I just want to freaking kill you. Like, I'm just gonna keep deceiving you, and we'll see what happens. But he learns to figure out how to use that fox energy, and he becomes so kawaii.
No, that's awesome because it's a constant source of tension.
Yeah.
Right? Is the fox giving me useful information, or am I about to walk off a cliff? It's like Dark Souls.
Oh, I love Dark. Dude, Andy, you found the perfect guest. I could talk. I just watched a 30-minute speed run of Dark Souls yesterday, but I will let you guys have a chance, even though it's not as cool as me ever. No, go for it, guys.
Christopher, tell us something cool that happened to you in the last week.
I got to keep telling. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay, so 2 quick things. So first, like we talked about, getting the book into stores, being able to do those negotiations with Barnes & Noble's managers, and I have a bunch of pictures up on my social media. It's really cool. It's right above Brandon Sanderson because Russell is the perfect last name, and I'm just fangirling out over that. I finished my squee quota just before I hopped on, so no squeeze right now.
Good, thank you.
The other thing, and I told Andy this before we hopped on the show, was I had an awesome dream last night where I was talking with Australian author Jay Kristoff, and I was telling him an idea for a book, and I immediately woke up, wrote it down on my phone, and went back to sleep, and it's like 95% coherent, and I only have 5% of that idea to figure out before it's perfect.
It's pretty cool when that happens. It doesn't happen often, but when it happens, it feels really awesome.
I'm like stuck on how you woke up midway to write it down. Like,
I don't know. I guess I just willed myself awake. I put Jay Kristoff on hold. I held up my hand. I'll be right back. Got to record this.
Oh wow, yeah. Because Andy has a super fancy pen that has a light on it that allows him to do that.
Absolutely.
I would lose that. I've already lost so many things. So yeah, well, that's good for you, Chris. Chris, do you know your personality type?
INTJ.
INTJ.
I am the
we get along.
You'd expect.
ENFP and INTJ are one of the most compatible. I think that's why I hate Andy so much now. Just kidding. No, but my girlfriend's INTJ, so if it doesn't work out, I'm coming for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Although you'd feel like if it didn't work out with one of that personality type, you wouldn't go for someone of the same personality type.
ENFP.
Well, it's like what is it? The Chinese zodiac, and you just have to blindly follow it.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
What
superstition for the win?
I don't even know what that. Yeah, INTJs are pretty superstitious, aren't they?
I believe in a lot of things, but I don't hard believe in them. That it's the fantasy author in me that I want to incorporate all these things and give them their due, but it's not necessarily something that's at the core of my being, I'd say. I definitely have a very vivid imagination where if somebody tells me that a place I'm going to stay is haunted by a 12-year-old boy, and this is oddly specific, not because it happened. Yes, haunted by a 12-year-old boy, that I will stay up for the first night trying to figure out if this is the case, and then I'll sleep soundly.
I love that. You should do a creepypasta on that. Speaking of INTJ, ENFP, because Lisa is an INTJ, I made this meme.
I can't read the words.
ENFP playing the steel drums he just bought at 3 a.m.
Because I want steel drums now. Andy, you're like, you would drive me
shaking
nuts.
My head.
That's cool, Chris. I keep calling you Chris.
That's fine.
Okay,
yeah.
That's cool, Chris. INTJ. Andy, what are you again?
I am ENTJ, I think.
ENTJ. Okay, that's awesome. Yeah.
So we're the two sides of the same coin.
The commander.
Yeah.
Dude, the commander is you. That's the word. That's the word. But cool. Well, Christopher, I almost called you Charles. Christopher, that's awesome.
How? His name is right there on the screen.
Charles is the British Chris, right?
Is it? Yes, that's exactly why I said it. I'm very cultured. I went to London once.
All right, we've spent 20 minutes talking about absolutely nothing and everything. We got to get on with the show.
Yes, you're right.
My good news for the week is that I finished the beta reader edits on Cerberus Book 9 and the official editor edits on Book 8. So both of those are in the queue. Book 10 went off to beta readers yesterday. I start work on Book 11 tomorrow, and I am still on track to finish book 12 by the end of the year. If I can do it, like, it's going to come down to like the last week. I'm probably going to be working up until like the day before Christmas or something. But if I can pull this off, then I will officially have finished the entire sci-fi series, 13 books in 15 months. Sorry, 14 months.
I cannot believe you have a plan all the way until a few days before Christmas.
Well, he's clearly a plotter.
Yeah, absolutely. I know more or less how long it takes for me to write a book. So I've got 2 months and like 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks, and then it's Christmas. So I just have to fit it in that. It's not exactly like I know exactly what I'm going to write every day, but I know how much time I have left because I can look at a calendar and count.
Lisa often tells me we'll see isn't a plan.
Or as my son loves to say, yeah, I'll figure it out. Actually, all of my kids say that. Oh yeah, I'll just figure it out. Like that's a plan about something.
You don't like that, Andy?
Hate it. If you're going to figure it out and then tell me what the plan is so that I know you actually got it figured out.
I'll figure it out.
I don't need to turn in that draft. You can trust me. Just trust me.
Mine is it all works out. That's what I usually say. Well, that's cool, Andy, man. Congratulations on book 50. And I feel bad when I say, hey, I've published 1 million words. And then I think about Andy. I'm like, never mind. It's not that special.
That might be book 35.
Oh, this reminds me of another cool fact. I'm going to slide in because this relates to Andy. Andy is my second highest click-through rate on Book Club. So people that like Andy's book seem to like my book.
Which is so funny because if you look at your cover, it's very like intelligent looking and like official. And then you look at mine and it's like, how are they getting from one to the other?
It's the cool character. It's the military themes. That's what it is. They see the uniform.
Fair enough. I'll take it. Okay, we better quickly get on to the topic for the week. I love the idea of the topic for the week because Christopher suggested it, and it kind of made me think about literally what's happening right now. So the idea is that, Christopher, in your world, technology is advancing. People are embracing this new technology, but it is sort of alienating them from their society, from their culture, from their religion, from their belief in magic and the gods and all of that, right?
Yes. So not doing a huge lore dump because we don't have time for that. So approximately 1,000 years before the events of the story, the gods just up and disappeared from the world of Decay's Twilight, the world of Lazaria. And so a lot of conflict has occurred because of that, because the gods were very hands-on. They were involved in the lives of their various races and people, managing them, trying to keep them from going at each other's throats. And so with that blockage removed, well, we had this whole string of conflicts and wars and hotspots all up and down the ages into the modern day. And the reason that that's such a problem in the modern day is that they've learned how to harness the magical resource of the world called Illyrium and the energy produced by it to create ever more powerful and destructive weapons. There are now airships in the world of Divinity's Twilight. There are electricity-powered cities. There are cannons that can bust through magically generated shields. So mages and crystals that could support those shields can no longer stop the progress of technology. And so this isn't necessarily a colonial plot. This is more of a World War I plot where the advancing technology of a single nation or a pair of nations in an arms race is forcing everyone around them to innovate, that either you buck up or you get overrun, that you're going to be assimilated into somebody else's culture. And then the side effect of that is that the religion, that people are still worshiping the gods in different areas, but some of these nations, in an attempt to solidify their power structure, particularly the Sarkonian Empire, that's one of the major antagonistic forces in the novel, that they have created a government that's very centralized around the emperor and a senate beneath him, that they have outlawed organized religion because that gives the people something to put faith and hope in aside from the central political figure. And that's very reminiscent of, say, a Soviet Russia or something that you see in our world. And so there's parallels like that.
You know, it was making me think of sort of the advance of technology. If you look at, let's say, the American family unit 40, 50 years ago, right? You would see a lot more religion. You would see a lot more, you know, like it would be a lot tighter knit. What's that?
Oh, you guys froze for a second.
I can hear me talking. So
okay, so you're talking about the American family. I heard that part.
I'm talking about just like society in general. The American is sort of the most iconic. So people will immediately recognize that. You look at the American society, or the American family unit of the 60s, right?
Mhm.
You have the church on Sunday, you have the picnics and the potlucks, and you have this sort of idyllic, or what people considered an idyllic family environment. And then you look at the family environment now, and it's super different. You've got all kinds of changes where you've got kids who are financially independent in a way that was never possible all these years ago. And you've got this sort of aversion to religion, which is way more widespread because people have more information. And like this technology has in so many ways created this, or it's led away from what 50 years ago would be like super normal American society or culture or religion and all of that. And it's sort of interesting to think about it. And you see that like the Industrial Revolution led away from farms, but when people started getting away from farms, that's when they started getting more educated and cultured and understanding. And that's when the religion stopped being, the be all and end all. And so it's an interesting thing to think about how technology leads away from this, but then it creates its own new thing in a way. And so society continues to evolve around it.
I just want to check. So are you two, am I freezing on your screen every like 30 seconds or so?
Nope.
Okay. Because I got like 90% of what you were saying, so I can run with that.
Okay.
Is Steve want to weigh in?
Stevie is muted and playing around with backgrounds.
Oh, there we are. I dropped my mic.
Okay.
And
It keeps freezing
Shrek.
for me. I don't know why.
Do you want to jump out and jump back in?
Yeah, let's try that. I'm going to refresh.
Okay. So Andy, explain the topic better. Because I always go on tangents about what I think it is, but I'm not.
There we go.
So the idea is that the advance of technology is a good thing, right? It shapes society. It's improved society often. And at the same time, some would claim there's a moral decay or a religious decay in the sense that people, like, let's take the current modern information age, right? You have so much information at your fingertips. So you want to learn about the religion that your parents believe. You go learn about it. You see it. There's articles and all kinds of stuff. You hate it. There's so much bad shit going on. I'm going to go away from it. Your parents who are still in this religion, they look at you and they're like, man, technology is taking him away from the things that I believe. It's a sort of simplistic, but it's an interesting way of seeing how technology can contribute to moral decay in its own way.
Well, what technology actually does is it just gives you more information. More is available to you so that you can have a broader subset of understandings. And a lot of what I do, it goes back to a class that I took in college. Engineers were required to be ethical. So an unethical engineer would be bad, of course. So they have us take what are called STS courses. I went to the University of Virginia. And those are science, technology, and society. It's this great acronym that they came up with. And so the first class that they have you do is democracy and technology. And you start at the beginning of human history and come up to the modern age, looking at how technology has influenced social structures and politics and government and vice versa. So which way is the innovation flowing? And the answer is, well, it's a big circle that they both influence each other. One bleeds into the other and back and forth. And so the critical thing when you have these traditions eroding is the question of, is this all a person or a culture knows? And if they've been isolated from the flow of information, if the rest of the world is more advanced, is the sudden collision going to destroy their way of life? And that's something that I like to explore.
And there's going to be this strong aversion to it. I mean, if you look at parts of the world where information is not so freely available, where smartphones are fairly new in the sense that, maybe for the last 5 years, everyone's had access to it, or look at, say, China, where the flow of information via the internet is very, very limited. There's a lot more sort of holding to the traditional culture and religion and societal structure. Whereas if you look at modern America, Canada, places where there is massive access to unrestricted access to technology, things, that's where you see the biggest changes. And that's sort of one of the best ways to see how technology shapes things, because it's like, so I just finished reading Dirk Ashton's Paternus series, right? And
Dirk Ashton. Oh, yeah.
And it's mythology, right? It's mythology, taking all these proto myths, all the various mythologies throughout history, and mashing them together in this awesome way. And in the end, in the final book, people are actually like the humans of the world are introduced to all the gods, right? And they're introduced to all of these characters and stuff. But just imagine what that would do to established religions. There would be no belief in Satan, because the character who embodied, who that myths turned into Satan or Lucifer, literally just died on the battlefield. So there is no hell either, because we just got beamed to this other world that's the representation of hell. So the more knowledge you have, the easier, like the harder it is to have those sort of faith-based beliefs. And I think that's what a lot of people see as eroding, is those faith-based beliefs without the evidence that you get with access to information.
Which actually brings up a very interesting point. I was going to go a different direction, but how do myths and religion adapt to innovation, to changing beliefs? And you actually see this within Christianity or within other modern religions, is the idea that science is an extension of their original myths, that it's something that deities or God wanted us to have, or that it is a natural creation, it's a progression. And so that's actually something that you can tackle, that how do traditions evolve while still retaining some semblance of their originality, of what they started as. What's a good example of this? Maybe, I haven't read it, but I've heard a lot about Evan Winter's Age of Dragons, where you have Rage of Dragons, that you have a almost colonial power coming in, and it's a very militaristic book, subjugating the natives and fighting against them. But that as their technology evolves, as the magic evolves, that they've retained their caste structure, that that the main character is from a lower caste, but that they accept him because it's expedient to them, that he is getting the job done, and maybe we can use this. It's a different kind of example, but I think it's the same idea, that if you're innovating in your social customs, innovating alongside your military hierarchy and your technology.
When I see this topic, I was thinking, the getting the chip put into your head, and that's like your cell phone. So is that morally correct?
Well, so the only reason that it would be considered bad is because of this, this line in the Bible that says it's the work of the Antichrist. Now, as someone who has been fairly, what do I describe myself as?
Elucidated.
No. It's not atheist. It's irreligious, right? Sort of not really believing any of those religious things. Reading it and seeing it, and then thinking about what the technology could provide, right? Writing an AI chip implanted in this guy's brain, right? Thinking about all the stuff that this chip could do, I'm like, sign me up.
I'd be more worried about the sci-fi ramifications, that if I put this in my brain, is somebody going to be able to mind control me?
Exactly. And so maybe that's what the Bible was like. It looked at, it looked at the ability for this chip to affect neurology specifically, not affect, the religion or the soul or anything, but actually be able to elect, the brain electricity and taking control of people's brains. That would be, sort of the Bible's interpretation of the scientific ramifications of it. But maybe, that is the actual thing, and it's got nothing to do with the Antichrist, or maybe it does. It's the more you know, the harder it is to just buy it, buy what something says. The more I learn about life, the harder it is for me to accept that,
there's a single definition.
Yeah, the whole Revelations thing. The chances of an actual dragon with 7 horns and a horn with a big mouth and all of that, is there going to be this mystical
I think
dragon?
It's probably a metaphor.
Exactly. Or there's it's sort of an interpretation of what it's, or this person who has no understanding.
Revelations was a dream sequence anyway, wasn't it?
Yeah, or a hallucination from a starving man on the island of Patmos.
Because John had been exiled, right?
and he was on that island. And, who's to say that the Bible isn't actually accurate? It's just telling its own definition or its own version of it in the way that he could understand.
It was using purple prose.
Exactly. But then this chip is going to come around sooner or later. And how many people are going to resist it because the Bible tells them it's bad, but maybe it's not actually bad. And it's just they're clinging to this religious belief that may or may not actually hold true. And so then as we research the side effects of the chip and the benefits and all of that, it's going to be harder and harder to say, yes, this is a bad thing because the Bible told me so, because of all of this evidence that we're going to have. And so this is sort of where technology and sort of faith-based things kind of contrast, and one can affect the other negatively.
Especially for me, I tend to approach it from a very moralistic side, that if you are clinging to a strict definition of how a people group should act or what you should do in certain social circumstances, then this ambitious person cannot accomplish their aims. That's the storytelling thing. So you erode the myths, you move the people away from them until suddenly you're at the center of their adoration, their veneration, rather than something that no longer exists. Because as far as the people in Divinity's Twilight are aware, the gods did exist. And so, but it's so far separate from their present day that it might as well have been somebody telling them that, what's a good example? That Ben Franklin performed a kite experiment. That's how electricity came to be. Or that's how humans discovered electricity. It's so far removed from our perception that it doesn't really matter. It is inadmissible.
Interesting. A question from the audience directed at you, Stevie. This is what they were thinking about in I Am Mech. Does the AI and the monkey nanobots, I'm guessing in his brain, influence his thinking or beliefs?
Yeah, so I've messed with that a lot, and it gets super complicated and super weird, which I love, and I love diving into morality in my books, because as an ENFP, I have extremely strong values that I do not stray from, and I'm very stubborn, and that's really the only thing I like to debate about. So having this thing in you, he had no choice. So now he's got it in him. And yes, by having that voice in his head, that constant logical anchor, because it's basically Lisa as well, her name is Lisa, but it's this logical person that keeps Jack grounded, because Jack is all over the place. He's a jack of all trades. But with this logical piece in his head, he not only becomes a little bit more down to earth, he also becomes a little bit less reckless. And he actually learns to show his emotions a little bit better too, because this AI is constantly telling him that. And he also sees mortality as well, because he's almost died so many freaking times. Great question, by the way. I don't worry, I've thought about it, and it's getting worse. I like to say it's getting worse. It's going to get worse. But actually, in book 4, there is this isn't really a spoiler, but there's I created this species, which I've never heard of before, but I'm sure everything's already been created. It's a digital species called the Hive. And what it does is it's like a virus. So it attaches to you, and you get this motherboard pattern on you, and you slowly start becoming like a bumblebee, and you're controlled by a single super powerful species. And it's interesting that we're talking about this. So it's a technological, of course it's immoral, but it's not immoral for this species. They just want to survive.
So actually, speaking of morality, I've been doing some research. Thank you, Regine, for this. Research on AI safety specifically, by this British AI safety researcher. And he's talking about artificial intelligences and the fact that they are not governed by morals, because they are governed by simple prime directives, right? They are given a code, right? It's a sequence of 1 and 0s. And so he gives the example of going to prepare a cup of tea, where the AI is programmed to move its physical form across the room to prepare a cup of tea. Now, a baby crawls in the way. The AI has no frame of reference for this baby in its way. So he walks over it and makes the cup of tea and comes back. And in his mind, he did a great job because he's programmed to make a cup of tea and no more. So then how to
You need an infinite number of if-then statements.
Exactly. And that's an impossibility. You cannot have an infinite number of anything, because it doesn't work. So it's how to teach artificial intelligences the human equivalent of morality, but then every human has their own sense of morals. And so this is the guy's argument, is that until we find a way to actually restrict and give it some sort of morals, AIs are going to be unpredictably dangerous to incredible levels. But when we can crack it, it'll be a way for us to restrict the AI's actions to whatever morality is governing it, and that's when it becomes safe. But it's people who ascribe morality to a program are failing to understand that the program is just simply governed by a single command or a command with a bunch of if-then clauses.
It's like the holes in Asimov's law, that there is something that's always going to fall through the cracks.
Yeah, totally know that. Yeah, studied that last week, actually.
Just go watch iRobot again.
Oh, great movie. I love iRobot. I do. And I liked I Am Legend, too. Okay, Chris, don't get me on a tangent. This has been well, no. It hasn't.
Well, see, here's what happens. Andy gives me the philosophy or the morality, something there, and then it hits me, and then I come up with an example that jives with Stevie.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
You are the filter, my friend.
Yes.
Now you have to come on every episode and be my Andy translator.
Oh, perfect.
He says you're beautiful, Stevie. Just tell me what I want to hear. But what time is it? Oh, Andy, should we get into the reading?
It's 6:10, so we're going to get into the reading. As per our new super organized professional standards on the podcast, we have arranged the reading beforehand. So Stevie will be reading the role of Celeste, as you can imagine, female, because Stevie has now been officially typecast as the woman.
I'm Shrek.
And I will be reading the role of the main character, Valen, who is sort of cocky, real chosen one syndrome with no actual...
Ooh. So this is Stevie, this is Celeste, and then this is Andy. Andy has a very nice jaw. And then Stevie has this wonderful, lustrous silver hair. It shimmers and shines.
How about my cans? It's all about the butt, people. Seriously, I'm a butt guy. Like, it's all about the butts.
No, you're perfect. You said you were petite in the chest. You're perfect.
I bet you do have that detail down as an INTJ. I bet you freaking do. I know you do.
Yes.
And of course, narration will be done by Christopher himself.
Yes.
So with no further ado, Christopher, take it away.
All right. Valen barely had time to register the attack before the dagger came shooting through his shield and past his head. He whipped about, watching the silver-haired girl approaching through the wind. The image was blurred, both because of his own shield and the airflow around him. He twitched his head left, narrowly dodging another dagger that he didn't see coming. The attacks were invisible to his sight, or at least impossible to see under current conditions.
By the veneer, am I actually at a disadvantage?
Time to change scenery. Valen reverted his blade to a rod and ran back toward his side of the field, dropping 10 meters from the top of the cruiser to the dusty ground of the village zone and releasing his electric field. He sprinted another 20 meters into the middle of the dilapidated town before turning to face his opponent. Smart or not, she had the gumption to follow him. Now that he got a good look at her, she was actually quite striking in a noble, majestic way. Long, silver hair topped a well-proportioned, cute face and a lithe, athletic body. However, she was petite and small of stature. The nobility of her bearing came from the set of her jaw and the air with which she carried herself. When she spoke, though, the voice that emerged was soft-spoken and silky, as though to counterbalance her hard stance.
I never thought you'd run from me, Valen Metellus. Out of all things, I thought you'd do. That was not one of them.
I'm full of surprises, my darling. I want to take this opportunity to apologize for any rudeness I may have shown your team earlier. Obviously, with you in charge, Renar has become infinitely more capable than ever before. Why don't you throw this match and you can tell me more about your tactics over dinner and a bottle of Ithran wine?
A dagger materialized over her left shoulder and fired with considerable force at his face. This time, Valen was able to see it coming and dodged easily.
I've heard all about your insufferable charms, and to be frank, I'm not impressed, neither by them nor by you. As far as I can see, you're a spoiled womanizer who's done nothing more than play at soldier for the past 4 years. Hardly the legend everybody talks you up to be.
And you're a space manipulator, more specifically, a conjurer who can change the proportions of her conjurations on the fly. Though it seems you're stuck making daggers at the moment.
Her mask of calm faltered.
What? How? You've only seen it 3 times.
Never let your enemy see your trick more than once.
Valen sketched a mocking bow.
But how did you know I can change the properties? And the part about me only being able to make daggers?
Your first dagger got diverted by my electric field and missed. The second was on target, meaning an adjustment was made to account for the shield. And the third you formed right in front of me. I may be a philandering playboy who doesn't give a care about academics or authority, but that doesn't make me an idiot.
He shot her his winningest smile. Solette's calm quickly returned as she summoned a dozen daggers into existence.
I see. But knowing a trick and avoiding it are 2 different things.
All of them were released at once, set on a crash course with various points on Valen's body. Valen urged his weapon into a long staff, which he spun to the fore while casting a gust of wind from its edges. The force of the gale blew the daggers off course and onto wild vectors through the air. Immediately, Solette adjusted their aim, bringing them down on him from whence they'd been knocked. Another thought, and the staff was again a round shield above Valen's head, from which he emitted a torrent of flame that incinerated the projectiles. But he wasn't done. Shield shifted to Warhammer, which he brought down to earth with the aid of a burst of wind. The weapon shattered into the ground, willing it to buckle and shoot forth pillars of stone beneath Solette's feet. As the columns rose, she somersaulted backwards, landing gracefully beside the emerging cascade. This was the true nature and power of the Triaran. It wasn't that Valen was more powerful than any other mage. It was simply that he was more versatile. In short, the Triaran was an elementalist sorcerer who was both an invoker and an arms mage. He could cast any element from any weapon without an engraved or verbal catalyst. And any weapon also included his own body to a small degree, hence his ability to project a limited electric field. Furthermore, Valen's ability to manipulate the elements extended to the unique instrument Metellus had gifted him, which could shift to his liking. Not needing to speak and being able to attack in almost any manner with any type of weapon was an indescribable advantage, one that had never seen Valen bested in combat. His current situation had the potential to be the first.
Let's take stock of things,
Valen decided. Matteo was useless. Check. Vel and Leon could beat their individual opponents one-on-one. Check. He was currently tied up in a fast-paced skirmish with a highly mobile opponent who couldn't beat him but could keep him occupied. Check. This left Raynar free to influence the match as he saw fit, which was probably Solette's plan all along. Occupy him while Raynar won the 3 versus 2 back at base. More disturbing, all they had to do was cross into their home zone, and only Matteo and Vel could fight all 3. Correction, only Vel could fight all 3.
Having a good ponder over there?
Solette was sitting cross-legged on one of the smaller pillars he had summoned, another dozen daggers floating about her head.
You do know you're the only one between me and your flag, right?
That was my intent. And that means it's 3-on-3 back at your base. Going to break your rule about going for the flag? I thought you liked the challenge of winning by TKO.
Exactly how much research did you do to win this?
If you're frustrated, evidently enough.
Actually,
Valen considered.
This is shaping up to be fun. Maybe there is something interesting about this noble, feisty girl. You know, I think I will win by flag cap after all.
He summoned a glaive and propelled himself forward using the ground at his feet. Solette launched her first wave of daggers and conjured more in their place.
Let's see you try. Triaran.
And Raynar and Turn Lilith had just breached the home zone of Valen's Vanguard. That means Leon can only watch and shoot light projectiles from Zone 1 as they make the final push for their flag. That's exactly what we're seeing, Tannen. Vel and Matteo must somehow hold on in what's essentially a 3-on-2 as Valen engages in a similar flag cap race on the far side. The question everyone is asking themselves now is, can the so-called Triaran overcome these odds?
Awesome.
Matteo was certainly asking himself that question. Here he was, lying behind his sniper rifle atop the high flag platform, having not fired a shot and shaking in fear for a variety of reasons. Fear of heights, fear of the burly opponents racing toward him, fear of losing, and fear of further upsetting Valen and his team. By Valen's order, he had not fired a shot. In fact, since their first match 4 years prior, when he had aggravated everyone by constantly talking into their minds via telepathy and angered Valen specifically by accidentally shooting him in the back with a spirit bullet, not a real one, he had not fired a shot. However, the current match was not going at all like it was supposed to. Normally, enemy teams had no way of countering Leon's long-range light attacks, leaving them vulnerable as Valen sprinted into their midst on Vel's glyphs and annihilated them all. This time, Raynar's team had been prepared for that tactic, hiding in the cruiser as the flashbangs went off, then exploding across the field using an innovative maneuver they'd never demonstrated before. Now, for the first time in 4 years, Valen's vanguard was in severe danger of losing.
Maybe I should try something. It couldn't hurt at this point, right?
Mateo looked down at the fight below him. Vel was battling admirably, but even she couldn't hold off 3 opponents. Using blood magic possible only to a sylph, she had sprouted wings from her back and taken flight, keeping all but the fire-using Lilith from being able to target her. As she dodged explosive blast after explosive blast, she continuously cast shield glyphs in an attempt to halt Raynar and Unter in their tracks. All it did was slow them down. Raynar swung his greatsword, and Unter blasted with his bucklers, each shattering obstacle after obstacle. Vel shifted tactics, turning the barriers into reflect panels so that the men's blows began bouncing back at them. But the extra second of focus required to make the switch cost Vel, and an explosion knocked her from the air. Back in Zone 1, Leon cast out a rope of light, catching Vel's ankle and dragging her away from their group before she could be damaged to the point where her suit locked up. Now a 25-meter climb was all that separated Raynar's renegades from victory. Confident in having clinched their win, they rushed toward the ladder. Mateo gulped and focused his scope on Valen. He was currently pressing the silver-haired girl who had chided him at the written exam that morning.
I've never seen someone stand up to Valen like that before. Well, at least someone who didn't think they had some sort of power over him.
As far as Mateo knew, no one had legitimate power over Valen. Admittedly, his world was a small one, but in that realm, Valen's dominion was absolute. A tiny voice spoke up in the back of his head.
This is your chance to prove your worth. You can still win this match and show Valen you're useful.
But how? He fidgeted, racking his brain. Below, Raynar was about to reach the ladder. Okay, he had 2 options. First, fire his rifle straight down the ladder and hope he could keep them from ascending. However, Unter was large and dexterous enough with his 4 arms to climb the scaffolding of the tower. This meant he had to somehow cover all 4 sides, not just the normal ascent. His second option was to try to hit Celette, knocking her out and allowing Valen to race to the flag unimpeded. In an unassisted foot race, Valen would outrun Raynar, and with his elemental abilities aiding him, he would make short work of the remaining distance and be the first to grab a flag.
All right, I help Valen.
He closed his left eye and gazed through the lens with his right. They were fighting in the square of the ruined village, burning and collapsed buildings to either side. It was a clean shot. Either he would hit Celette, Valen, or the ground. But if he missed the first shot, Celette would be alerted to his attention. Another whispering fear said,
She already knows what you're doing. Haven't you realized she has this all planned out?
Celette dodged a glaive strike and the subsequent blast of fire that accompanied it. Valen darted forward in the direction of the cruiser zone as she did, and for the moment, he was closer to their flag than she was. Celette turned to follow, daggers materializing around her. Mateo wasn't going to get a better, clearer shot than this. He let go of his fears along with his breath and pulled the trigger. As he watched through the scope, Celette's head was partially turned toward him, and he could have sworn she smiled right as he brought his finger back. She leaped straight up, impossibly landing and balancing on a pair of daggers. The spirit bullet passed through the air where she had been milliseconds prior and hit Valen square in the back.
Oh, what irony. Guess I'm voided. Boom.
I love that.
Awesome.
That part.
Those were perfect voices.
Thank you. Yeah, I gotta say, it reminds me a lot of Destiny.
Haven't played Destiny.
It's great. It's a great game. It's fun, but you get bored of it. For me, I did anyway. But when you said voided, it's kind of like when they die, they kind of evaporate, is what I thought. But they're not dead; they respawn.
So the void in this universe is like the antithesis to the creator. It's the blackness of space from which existence came. So if you're voided, you're basically screwed. That you are in a black void drifting eternally, and that's where all the souls that haven't gone to the creator go. So you're just stuck there.
Oh, I thought this was like a game. So
so no, the voided it's a cursing substitute. But the game, this is a graduation match for their military academy. This is the practical portion. A 4-person squad is battling against a 4-person squad, and we came into it in the middle. At the beginning, Tannen Haller, which Andy did a great Tannen Haller, and then Major Reeve, who's a woman, but that's okay. She just has a gruff voice, that second one, which you know that from the previous part because there's dialogue tags back when they start doing the announcing. But they explain the rules to people that don't understand while the squads are going through their warm-ups.
That's awesome. I love the idea of it. If I had to describe it in one word, it would be dope. Andy,
perfect.
Yours would
dope
be
out of dope.
Dope. Dope is a good word. Dope. I don't use it because I feel like a poser when I say it, but
I'd never think you're a poser, Stevie.
Thank you. You and Lisa, y'all just steal my heart. You just let me be me, which
Careful,
is
this is going
dangerous.
to turn into the Fantasy Fiends show with Christopher Russell and Stevie Collier.
I just come on to give him an ego boost.
That's right.
And to let Valen be egotistical characters.
Let Andy
be egotistical characters like Valen. There we go.
Well, you know what, Andy? We're going to have to do another personality trait episode and have Chris on for that one. Because that was a good episode. I thought that was fun. Because I think it's very interesting how freaking accurate it can be for most people. But Chris, dude, awesome reading. Oh, we had a question a few episodes back, maybe like 10 episodes back, actually. And I think it might have been from Rashawn, but it was, how do you write a good battle scene? I would say read that scene again. Personally, it kept my attention for sure. I could see things that were going on. Battle scenes are hard to write because it's either too much detail or you don't really know what's going on. I think you did a great job, Chris. So if anyone needs like an idea of how to do it, I would go there. So
awesome, thank you. But like you said,
sure.
it's balancing, allowing the reader enough imagination to see it for themselves, and then a few critical details that are going to put you inside the character's head.
Yeah, I made the mistake of being over detailed in the beginning of my career. So the balance is you're right. It's all about that balance. So Chris, where can people find you?
Best place to find me is my website, ChristopherRussellAuthor.com. It is spelled exactly like the tag right beneath here. I'm tracing backwards because the camera reverses everything. So ChristopherRussellAuthor.com. That has links to all my social media as well as a bunch of free reads, short stories. There is a significant portion of Divinity's Twilight's prologue, part of a few chapters, and then some short story snippets and another excerpt from an Asian fantasy that I'm working on that I have to finish in October. So there's a little bit of that Andy pressure talking about finishing it by a certain date. And that's so I can get back to doing the revisions for book 2 of Divinity's Twilight. So that's me holding myself accountable. But the other social medias are Christopher_Russell_author. That's Instagram. Chris_DT_author, Twitter. And then I have a YouTube channel that's under my name. So, Facebook is Divinity's Twilight Fantasy Novel. So there's a theme with all this branding.
Yeah, dude, I'm all about that branding. Christopher Russell, Christopher Russell, YouTube. Just look that up. Okay.
There's maybe 5 or 6 videos. My most popular one is where I did this cute. Actually, I have it here. Let me show you. So I did this cute little fantasy genealogy, starting with Tolkien and using stick figures down to the modern era of all these different inspirations.
Scott Lynch, Andy, your boy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Geez, your handwriting's nice. Oh my God, that's nice. And of course,
my mother's an English teacher.
Oh, okay. Yeah, my mom's a doctor, so that makes sense. Honestly, and he's wearing a suit. Everybody in his picture, but yeah, go check out Christopher's books. And Christopher, this is really important. Is there only one book to the series? Is that it?
There's only one book right now. It came out Tuesday, September 22nd.
Woo!
Oh,
So-
wow. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Very nice.
The ebook was out way back in June 2nd, so that's why you see all the reviews and stuff up to this point. So there
Awesome.
was a staggered launch.
Gotcha.
Yeah, people, go check out the website. He has all the links there. If you get confused, that's ChristopherRussellAuthor.com. Go check that out. He's on Amazon, not on Audible yet, I assume, right?
Plans are in the works. That's all I'll say.
Plans
Yes.
are in the works. Awesome.
And I'm not as fast as Andy, but my goal is to get you guys 2 books next year. 1 Divinity's Twilight,
Nice.
1 standalone.
Excellent.
Yeah. Well, if the personality thing is something you're interested in, since you already knew it, let's have you back on for that, because I'd like to revisit it.
Awesome. I'd be happy to be your INTJ.
Awesome, man. Well, Andy, is there anything else we
Yes,
need to talk
there
about?
is. The surprise question that we ask the guests at the
Oh.
end of every episode.
Now you're talking
Or last
Deranged and
5.
Conquering
No.
questing.
The question is for you, Christopher. Just
Yes.
answer off the top of your head. What are 2 vital habits or traits for a successful human? Not a successful writer, a successful human being.
Sense of virtue, so something to shape that, and then a calendar, a calendar in your phone. Before I got into being an author, doing all this different stuff, I did not record anything, and I'd occasionally be lost, and now I'd totally be lost if I didn't have that calendar.
Yeah, me
I like that.
too.
I will tell you guys a super awesome secret that I just discovered is Gmail. You can set like reminders for yourself. So I send myself like an email and then I just set it as a reminder. So it just pops up in my email inbox when I need a reminder of something.
Mm-hmm.
The
And my
last,
third thing would be swords. And Andy
Sword.
has that down.
So I have
Oh.
that down.
Yes.
Absolutely. Very cool. Well, that is it for the Fantasy Fiends show. We will be back on Monday night. Yes, Monday night, 6 p.m. Pacific time with the final episode of season 1 of Deranged and Questing, the Necromancer's Idiot Apprentice. We are closing out the first season and doing the next big mission. We are fighting, I don't know, it looks like an undead pixie monster kind of thing, which
Awesome.
is going to be so much fun. Hopefully there's lots of them around because Grack needs to kill stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Grack must kill. Yep. So check it out Monday, guys. That is it for the Fantasy Fiends show / podcast / Stevie's Life vlog. We will see you guys on Monday. Remember, you got to tune in on Twitch. It's not on YouTube. And you get to be a part of the show as well, the way they do it, obviously. And we will see you Thursday for another awesome fantasy / sci-fi author. We love you all, and we hope you have a great night. This is Stevie Collier.
No.
Thank you.